Arjuna explains to Lord Krishna his reasons for choosing not to engage in combat in Chapter 1 and in the first portion of Chapter 2 as well. In essence, he fears the dark side of having to kill a person. Arjuna first accepts Lord Krishna's offer to be his disciple, following which Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and begs to instruct him. Krishna starts answering Arjuna's arguments. Krishna begins by outlining the key differences between the eternal spiritual soul and the temporary material body for Arjuna. Krishna describes how transmigration works, the nature of selfless service to the Supreme, and what it means to be actually self-realized. Krishna first explains analytically why battling for him is transcendental and won't result in sin. The goal of the Vedas, according to Krishna, is to progressively raise souls to Krishna consciousness. Thus, Krishna encourages Arjuna to battle and remain steadfast in his service while ignoring the desires of his mind. Since Krishna glorifies both Buddhi Yoga, the use of intelligence to advance spiritual knowledge, and karma, Arjuna becomes perplexed and wants to use Krishna's directive to practice Buddhi Yoga as a justification to leave the battlefield and live a life of contemplation. Sri Krishna tries to inspire Arjuna by warning him not to give in to the frailty of the mind. He won't get to paradise if he gives in to such weakness, on the contrary, it would bring him shame. Arjuna asks Sri Krishna, how can he throw arrows at his teachers? It would be better for him to beg than to commit such an act. Even if he were to triumph in the conflict, he would still have to deal with the loss of Dhritarashtra's sons. He says that he has forgotten his duty, and he prays to Sri Krishna to show him the way to righteousness. Arjuna's emotional reaction to the loss of his loved ones prompts Sri Krishna to educate him on 4 subjects: the soul, karma, dharma, and senses. Regarding soul, there has never been a period when we have not existed or would cease to exist. The spirit departs from this body after death and moves into a new one. The soul is unchanging, unimaginable, and indestructible. The soul never gives birth, and it doesn't pass away when a person dies. Weapons, fire, water, and air all have an impact on the body, but they have no effect on the soul. The soul cannot be pierced by weapons, burned by fire, wetted by water, or dried by air. All of this affects the human body, however, the soul has no effect on it. Arjuna shouldn't be sad even if he thinks that the soul is born and then dies. Anything that has been born must eventually pass away, the human body is destined to perish one day. Regarding Dharma, Arjuna is reminded by Sri Krishna of his duty as a Kshatriya, which means warrior, and that he should defend Dharma, which means religious and moral duty. He will be shamed if he doesn't stand up for Dharma. In addition, if he battles for the Dharma and loses the battle, he will be granted access to heaven. If he wins the battle, he will be given a huge dominion on earth. Regarding karma, Arjuna is instructed by Sri Krishna to fight without considering the results of his deed of fighting, and that he should not consider happiness or grief, benefit or loss, winning or losing. A person who walks along this route develops tremendous courage, concentration, and intellectual stability. People with superficial knowledge are overly preoccupied with the Vedas because they are looking for fame, a good life, and the fulfillment of their senses. Krishna tells Arjuna to rise beyond the 3 gunas which are Rajasic, Sattvic, and Tamasic listed in the Vedas, because doing so does not increase devotion to God. Sri Krishna also says that Arjuna has the right to carry out actions, but he has no claim to the rewards of his actions. Yoga is the practice of an action without any consideration of success or failure. A person is freed from the cycle of birth and death through yoga. Regarding senses, according to Sri Krishna, senses are extremely powerful, and by thinking about sense-related issues repeatedly, one develops a desire, which then results in rage. Anger leads to attachment, which leads to disorientation, which leads to the destruction of the intellect. Sri Krishna also says that a person without cravings has a steady mind, which ultimately results in tranquility. The wants of the senses are the source of both happiness and unhappiness. Only a person who is unaffected by joy and sorrow, untouched by fear and rage, unaffected by desires, and unaffected by ego may find serenity. the individual can reach the abode of God after departing from the body in such a state of yoga. So Sri Krishna orders Arjuna to master his senses in order to stabilize his intellect. As usual, Chapter 2 of the Bhagwad Gita is a very powerful one. It goes in depth to explain Arjuna about soul, Dharma, karma, and senses. Firstly, the soul cannot be killed or harmed, but the vessel aka, the human body will perish over time. Secondly, we are born into this plane with a certain Dharma, which is our religious and moral duty that we are supposed to fulfill in this lifetime. Thirdly, focus on the process, not on the results. You may gain something or lose something, but it is not important. What's more, important is the process. Fourthly, do not let your senses take the lead and drive you. Take control of your senses and stabilize your intellect. If you learned anything new from this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to us as well.